Hallo, Undertoads, nächste Halt, Castle Wolfenstein, ja? And this game is a big deal. This is Wolfenstein 3D. At least, this is Wolfenstein 3D as ported to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The game was originally released to the PC in 1992 and was later ported to approximately 87 billion other platforms. Wolfenstein 3D is obviously a very popular and influential game, and its legacy reflects that. Well, the original's legacy reflects that. The only thing the Super Nintendo version's legacy reflects is the image of a game that perhaps never should have been made. Wolfenstein 3D is really the precursor to just about every first-person shooter on the market. Developed by id Software, there'd never been a game quite like Wolfenstein 3D. And although the developer's next release, id released a little game called Doom a year later, was perhaps more so, Wolfenstein 3D was a very significant moment for video games. There aren't many games you can say this about, but Wolfenstein 3D is in pretty elite company as a game that, by coalescing and fully realizing ideas from past games, really created a whole new genre. On the Super Nintendo, it just created headaches. This version is widely considered an embarrassment to the game by Wolfenstein fans, and for good reason. Being ported to the Super Nintendo meant dealing with Nintendo's censors. At the time, the company maintained a very strict policy on games with lurid or offensive content, and that meant Wolfenstein 3D would have to be neutered. The first thing to go were the Nazi references, every single one of them. Flags that used to bear swastikas are blank. Bosses were changed from Nazi generals to things with names like Uber Mutant and Death Knight. They even changed the name of the game's boss, Adolf Hitler, and perhaps most importantly, they took away his mustache. For a game based entirely on killing Nazis, not having any Nazis is sort of a problem. Wolfenstein 3D feels kind of empty and hollow without those themes, which really gave the original game its edgy feel. But it's about more than thematic censorship. Wolfenstein 3D lost a lot more than symbols and facial hair in its move to the Super Nintendo. The game also had new music, slightly different level design, and a blurry, almost indecipherable new look. In fact, the graphics are so bad, it can be tough to see what's actually happening on screen and which jumbled blur of pixels is shooting at you. Now, to the game's credit, there are a few good changes in the Super Nintendo version too. A rocket launcher was added to the game, as well as a flamethrower, which makes some of us here at CGR uncontrollably happy, but even RPGs and flamethrowers aren't enough to hide the fact that this port pales in comparison to the original. I mean, it'd be one thing if it were only about censorship, but perhaps most importantly, this game just wasn't meant to be played with a controller. It could be really cumbersome. All things considered, the clunky escape from Castle Wolfenstein in Wolfenstein 3D for the Super Nintendo is more a G-rated spill than an R-rated thrill.